Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for another episode of SLMA Radio. Brought to you on behalf of the thousands of members of the Sales Lead Management Association. If it has to do with sales lead management or sales lead marketing, it probably starts here with the SLMA Radio Show. Today, as always, we're privileged, honored, excited to have with us the founder, executive director of the SLMA, Jim Obermeyer. Hey, Jim.
Thank you, Paul. Paul Roberts is our announcer for all programs on the Funnel Radio channel. I am Jim Obermeyer, your host today on SLMA Radio. And our guest today is Kristin Hege. She is the CEO of Convey Communications. The title of our program today is Defining PR in a Digital World. We all know that marketing has changed in the recent digital world, and it continues to change at an accelerating rate. More specifically, we'd like to know how public relations has changed. The day of the PR release hasn't totally passed, but many companies are skipping them in favor of other forms of communications. Of course, PR is still involved in crisis communications. However, their involvement includes more work on the content management side. Content management is often thought of as written communications, but it can also include podcasting, videos, live events, all of those things that contribute to the digital communications world. At this point, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Kristin Hege. Kristin, what's your definition of PR in the digital world?
You know, it definitely has. The definition of PR has always been defined, at least in our PR world, by PRSA, which is a Public Relations Society of America. And I sat on the board a few years ago where they actually went in and they changed the definition of PR to encompass the word communication, because that just public relations in itself just wasn't enough to what PR people do on a daily basis. So it's beyond just, like you said in the opening, beyond just press releases and reputation management now. Now it's everything communications. And in the digital world today, your digital footprint from a brand perspective is just, it's out there, right? It's out there faster and more furious than ever before. So it's exciting, but also harder to control. And it takes a lot more strategy. Whereas even with journalists, it used to be easy to pitch journalists. Now we're pitching journalists via direct message and Twitter and LinkedIn and text, and building these relationships in different ways that we never had to do before because of where modern digital technology and digital media has really taken us.
What about crisis communications? Is that a growing part of the PR landscape?
You know, it really is, and it's more on demand than ever. Before we would have more time to put out statements and have more control of the timing. Now, I don't know about you, but a few weeks ago, I logged into Slack and I was working and it was down. And before I even thought, gee, I'm going to check in a couple minutes, I went straight to Twitter to see what their statement is. You know, how long are they going to be down, or other people complaining? And that's how we've been trained as consumers, is to want to know what's going on all the time. And so from a crisis communication standpoint, we have to move faster and more strategic. Brands of the past have always thought, well, crisis communication is something we can get to when we get to it. That's no longer it. You know, needing and having to have those strategies and plans at the start of the foundation is so essential, because we got to move fast.
Yes, I certainly agree. At one time, someone would come to you and say, I'd like to establish a position of thought leadership. From your position, it probably would entail research. It would probably entail 25 or 30 or 40 speaking engagements over a several-year period. It may entail writing a book, a real book of 235 or 40 pages. It may take a year or two to create, plus all of the research that might be required behind all of this to help establish that thought position. Is this a thing of the past?
Sure, absolutely.
Or are there other communications tactics used today to create that thought leadership?
Yeah, when it comes to thought leadership, I mean, as you mentioned, there's so many options now out there from a digital perspective, but that just means there's more people playing the game. So it's harder to stand out. It's harder to have that podium that you could easily maybe attain of years past. And so now, you know, for us, it's creating that well-rounded thought leader where, you know, we take a step back and say strategically, just because you're in sales and marketing. Are you only wanting to talk about sales and marketing? What is your goal as a thought leader? Do you want to influence people? Do you want to just get people to buy your brand? Do you want to hire, you want to influence people to come in and work for you? And so really mapping out a thought leadership plan with the goal in mind helps us be more strategic in how we go for it, because there's so many voices out there. There's so many people with an opinion, validated or not, that you'll find things like where we used to be able to just apply to speak at an event. And it used to be fairly simple. You fill out the submission form, and if they like it and they know you, they'll pick you. But now they're getting thousands of submissions for that same one slot. And so really building that foundation from the ground up is what's going to obtain those bigger goals down the road. So I wish I could say there was a secret sauce and that I know it. But the secret sauce that we have is just building, again, that well-rounded, from being on podcasts to writing articles to speaking at local events, owning your backyard. That's something we like to try to tell clients. You can't go speak at the big conferences if the people in town don't even know you. So really putting in the legwork. It's definitely a paying your dues process.
Don't you think that thought leadership is really brand leadership in a category? The CEO and the CMO and the CSO may want their personal recognition, but they know ultimately it's the recognition for the company and the brand that counts. And this takes planning, it takes goal setting, it takes thought to be able to do this and pull it off successfully, don't you think?
We agree wholeheartly. And that's why I said focusing on that goal. I mean, do you want to be the next Gary Vee? Does anyone really know? Everyone likes to watch him speak, but does everybody in the audience even know what the guy does, right? What is your goal as that thought leader? And if it's to move the needle, which it should be a measurable goal at some point, then we have to be more strategic about where we're putting you. I've had clients where they want to speak because they want to be known, and it sounds negative, but it's the ego play. There's nothing wrong with that. They've earned the right to go out and do it. But I'm going to measure that a lot different than I would be putting them in a conference just to speak when they don't have any buyers or potential prospects in the audience. That to me is not a valuable stage. So really understanding that, and that earned media does help because you get vetted all the time. Just like when someone's trying to buy your product, from a thought leadership standpoint, they vet you before they even respond to our email as a pitch. They go to see what's out there. What are these people saying? What does the Twitter look like? And so that's why it's so important to start from the ground up, because before they even email me back and say maybe, they've done some research to see who this guy or girl is first.
Strategically, you as the PR person has to spend time on their plan to understand where they want to go, how soon they're going to get there. They don't have to be known by tens of thousands of people that aren't going to use their products. They just have to be known by the people that are going to use their products. I think the job of PR is very little known by most of the CEOs that you end up by working for. How many times have you been asked from a new client, one of my goals is to be quoted in the Wall Street Journal? How many times has that happened? Most PR people sit there and chuckle because it seems like just about every new client that comes aboard, that's their request. They don't understand what it takes to really get there. We have to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, and when we come back, I'd like to touch on something that you mentioned earlier, one of my favorite words, which is the word measurement. How do you measure PR? The CEO, the CFO, and the CMO always want to know about measurement today. If they're going to spend money on something other than direct lead generation, if it's going to be a PR play, they want to know, what are we going to get, how long is it going to take, and how do we measure this? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hi, folks. This is Jim Obermeyer on the Funnel Radio channel. I'm bringing a message to you today from Convey Communications. They are a strategic B2B communications firm that works with growing B2B tech and services companies of all sizes. We've been working with Convey because they represent several of the hosts on the Funnel Radio channel. Whether you're looking for traditional media relations or content services like podcasting and video, Convey executes strategies to propel your brand. Convey takes pride in cutting through noise and focusing on results. The team is tech-obsessed and know the complexities of the B2B world. To learn more about Convey Communications, please visit www.conveycommunicationsagency.com. And now back to our program where Kristin Hege continues to talk about that special word. We've been speaking with Kristin Hege of Convey Communications. We've been discussing PR in the digital world, and during that discussion, she uttered the magic word. Kristin, the magic word is?
Measurement.
Measurement. That is the magic word. You can tell that we don't script things out on the SLMA radio program beforehand. Kristin, how do you measure PR in today's world?
This is something that I teach in my class, is that no one measurement means the same to every client. First, understanding, I never go, or we never go into a account blind knowing what success looks like for them. A smaller startup company, sometimes, those are like working for your parents sometimes because it's great, because every little thing is so awesome for them because they haven't had anything from the start. Then you go to more of the growth stage, longer, more mature companies, and they're asking for more deliverables in what they see as more valuable ways. So the first and foremost is really, if you're going to engage with a PR person, or you're thinking about, or you are a PR person, or you're creating a plan, it's understanding what success looks like for an individual company. Things that we in the B2B tech space, because those are the clients that I work predominantly with, we're asked for things like traffic to a website. So it's important for a modern PR person to understand how Google Analytics work, how tracking links and UTM codes within some content, it works. And say that is, that's an example of measurement for a client. They want traffic to their website, and we're placing content. Every outlet out there, not a lot of them let you link back to a website. So while it may be a perfect place to place an article, it's not valuable to my client because they're not getting a link back. They're not driving traffic from that site back to the website of the brand. And so really understanding how they're going to hold us accountable is how we determine how we'll measure it. And sometimes we can't. Sometimes it's just brand voice and we're watching sentiment over social and things like that. But we can get down to the nitty gritty and pretty tactical as long as the client understands what their version of success.
Can you give me more examples aside from the website tracking?
Sure. We always like to put our, whenever we can, our goals around business goals. So say a client wants to hire 100 people this year. We will focus on, I said that, owning the backyard stuff, but we'll also focus on winning Best Places to Work awards. We'll increase Glassdoor and G2 Crowd or whatever outlet out there that is measuring the particular industry of the client company performance. We'll make sure that those are increased and that brand reputation is out there. We're making sure that we're showing and showcasing their culture by getting the local business journals to come out and show how cool their office space is. So that can be something that a client will want, where they'll say, we're trying to hire. We can move our efforts towards increasing that brand reputation locally, or even, just for recruitment. That's one example. Another example would be just straight sales. It's very hard to get people to grasp how PR can actually be connected to sales, because we can only get them in the door and what they do from there. A lot of people say it's on the company, but for me personally, I think that's a cop-out. We like to meet with sales departments and say, okay, if you're selling a software, for example, and I want to know the objections. If someone's coming down the funnel and they're not buying, what are the objections you're getting? Can I create content around those objections? So either one, they don't enter the funnel at all, or two, they better understand once they get to the funnel what they're getting with that software. And going in and really digging into the buyer journey and the personas so that we are actually attracting the right people and getting the attention at the right places. To me, that's the definition of modern PR, because a lot of people think of that as a marketing function. It is, but it should also be a PR function as well.
Very much so, especially the content building, which builds so much to the sales enablement function that is in vogue now between sales and marketing. I ask just about everyone who comes in the program the question, who builds wealth in the corporation? I happen to think that PR, as well as other marketing people in the organization, pound for pound, build more wealth in the company than any other person in the company. I know that upsets salespeople, but at the same time, the inquiries, the branding, the whole marketing positioning has to come from a very small group of people, and PR is a significant part of that group. If that group did not exist, where would the salespeople be? Their content would be lacking. The branding would be lacking. They'd be out selling on price, certainly not on the benefits of the product. Do you agree?
I do, especially if they go at it with a partnership mentality. I mean, your PR firm should be doing all of the heavy lifting, but you should be accessible. They should have deep-rooted access, like I talked about, to sales and things like that. They should have a seat at the table. They shouldn't be looked at necessarily as a vendor as much as they should be looked at as an extension of the team. And those are fancy words to say, and they're in lots of articles, but it's actually very true. They should be that other extension of the team. They should be brought in conversations. They should know all the little nuances that are happening because we're creative people. We're like, oh, I can do something with that. Or let's not do anything with that. And the more we know, the more we can advise. And I think sometimes people don't realize that you can't keep it at arm's length because you'll get, to your point, $2 to 1 if we're informed and ingrained into the organization.
I think in many respects, the word public relations is really a misnomer for today's modern PR department. I even dislike the word PR. Don't know what to replace it with, however. In many respects, other marketing functions within the company are single purpose. They generate leads, and that campaign is over and is dead. In your case, you create content that is very often used in many, many, many different ways. Single speaking engagement can be used in articles, it can be used in blog, it can be used in ebooks, it can be used in regular books, it can be used in so much collateral. And that's very much the case in so many things in PR today. From your biography, I can see that you're an adjunct professor at the local university teaching public relations courses. If I remember right, there are some things that people ask and things that you get involved with in that discussion that are maybe pet peeves or misunderstandings on the part of the people that you teach. Would you like to share any of those with us today?
Sure. I mainly laugh because I'm super excited about this role. I'm going into my third semester doing it. I really do enjoy it because I feel like that real world experience in ASU does such a good job about having the adjunct professors so that the students get just more insight into the day-to-day from PR. But what I think, and I'm speaking from even hiring interns myself at the agency, is that the strategy portions, sometimes PR people focus so much on the technical or the tactical side. Okay, now I'm going to write the press release and it's going to be this and it's going to be this and okay, and it's announced. And my strategy is, who cares? Who's going to care about this? Does anyone care about this? And my students often laugh because they'll write something and I'll go, I don't want to read this, jokingly and nicely. I'm not a jerk, I promise. And they're starting to get it. And they get excited when they start realizing and they're questioning themselves of just because it sounds like a good idea doesn't mean it's going to perform well. So thinking that strategy from start to finish isn't something that they've been taught up until the point when they come into my classes. I would say a pet peeve, but also an exciting opportunity for me is always just thinking, if I just write this, it's fine. It's checking a box, that checking box mentality. I'm sure we've all been working with people in the workplace that are like that, but there is no success without strategy. And so that I would say is my biggest pet peeve is not thinking beyond the tactical. And the second one is just freedom in writing. I mean, I think that sometimes what the digital world has done, I think there's probably a lot of journalism people out there would say that it's brought down quality of writing. I mean, you have people in newsrooms that used to be able to write 5 stories a week and they're writing 5 a day because newsrooms are shrunk. The demand is higher than ever for the impressions and likes and shares. It's exciting as a writer because we have the opportunity to be creative. People like to tell stories and write conversationally. Students that I'm come in and they're very robotic in what they're writing and they're almost afraid to have an opinion when they're expressing themselves. And so it's fun to teach them that's actually what people are drawn to. That's what people are influenced by. They want to know you and they want to feel that they can trust you. And so really breaking that habit of them of saying, yes, you have to know the rules, but you have to also be engaging at the same time.
That's great advice. It's an exciting field to be in today.
It really is.
I think PR is an exciting field to be in today because of some of the immediate responses and the demands for brand recognition, the demand for crisis management, the demand for the recognition of individual leaders. Many of these things don't occur daily activity list of the average marketer. How can someone reach you, Kristin?
Anybody that wants to reach out to me, they can email me at Kristin@conveycommunicationsagency.com or just go to conveycommunicationsagency.com and check out the website, see what we do, and you can reach me there.
Thank you very much for your time today, Kristin Hege, CEO of Convey Communications. Please continue to convey to your students the wealth that they create as the PR communicators of the future. Paul, over to you.
Well, you've been listening to another episode of SLMA Radio, brought to you on behalf of the thousands and thousands of members of the Sales Lead Management Association. that has to do with sales lead management or sales lead marketing, it probably starts here with the SLMA radio show. One of the many shows on the Funnel Radio Network for at-work listeners like you.